Amendment Bill 2023 that proposes that couples can now divorce through mutual consent. That is a bill that has been fronted by Suna West Member of Parliament Francis Matara. And to have that conversation and more enlightenment concerning the divorce law, we are joined by Pauline Ng'endo, who is a lawyer as well as a divorcee. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, and looking forward to have a great conversation with you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Perhaps let us start by you telling us your story to find basis for this conversation on divorce matters.
What I would like to say is that first, my name is Pauline Ng'endo. I'm an advocate of the High Court. I am also a member of FIDA, and I'm a member of the Pro Bono panel on Coalition on Violence Against Women, and I'm also an accredited mediator. I do deal with a lot of family and children matters.
Yes.
That is on a professional level. Yes. On a personal level, yes. I am a single parent. Yes.
Great. How is it like?
It's wonderful. Yes.
Yeah. Now that we are having this conversation on divorce, perhaps you could tell us about the process of the divorce process, and because now this bill comes in probably to even reduce that dragging of the cases and also the financial cost that comes with it. Yeah.
So what happens, we have the Marriage Act 2014, and the Marriage Act 2014 provides that we have to start with the type of marriages. So we have the Christian marriage, which is like celebrated in church. We have the civil marriage, whereby you go out to the Attorney General's office. We have the Muslim marriage, we have the Hindu marriage, and we have the traditional marriage, yes, based on the various traditions and customs that we have here in Kenya. Yes. So when it comes to divorce, the Marriage Act provides that you can, any party can petition for a divorce. And the grounds for petitioning for a divorce is, number one, the marriage has irretrievably broken down. Number two, there is exceptional depravity or cruelty. Number three, there is adultery. Number four, there has been what we call dissertation, like the parties for a continuous period of 3 years. Like either party deserted the other, they have not been living together, yes, for a period of 3 years preceding the time when you file for a divorce petition. So we find that the process is that any person can petition the court. You file the petition in court, you serve the other party, and then now you go through the proceedings of the divorce until when now you are granted the decree absolute. So you can get a lawyer to file the petition on your behalf and to present the petition in court. But in terms of filing fees, it is not that it's not that expensive. Yes.
Perhaps take us through now the difference that comes in between the Marriage Act 2014 and now the Marriage Amendment Bill that has been fronted for 2023. What's the difference and the advantages of each? Okay,
so currently with the Marriage Act 2014, divorce can only be, you have to petition in court. So the Marriage Act 2014, as it is, does not provide for mutual consent to divorce. You have to go through court, you have to go through the court proceedings until you get the decree absolute. Now, the Marriage Act, the Marriage Amendment 2023 proposes to amend Section 75 of the Marriage Act, such that now parties can mutually petition to divorce by consent. And it proposes to amend in as follows, that the parties jointly present the petition in court, that the parties, before they do that petition to divorce mutually, they should have separated for a period of 1 year before now they present that mutual separation for a period of 1 year before they present the joint petition in court. Number two, they have mutually decided to. Number two, the marriage has irretrievably broken down. A marriage that has irretrievably broken down means that even if you tried to resuscitate it by whichever means. It can't come back to life.
Yes.
And number 3, that they are divorcing mutually. Then they should also present themselves in court during the hearing of the divorce.
Yes.
So once they are granted the divorce, it will be a decree, and it will be a decree absolute, and that is it. The Marriage Amendment Bill 2023 also proposes that once the decree is granted, then that is it. It will be a decree absolute, it will be final. Then, however, because this is is divorce by mutual consent of both parties, there should be no fraud, there should be no coercion, there should be no undue influence. In that, the parties that are presenting this petition jointly, no party probably has intimidated the other or forced the other or maybe issued threats, That is what it means, just simply a mutual divorce. Then it provides that if, let's say, maybe there was undue influence or something, the innocent party can be compensated by damages, and the court now can nullify that decree that maybe had been obtained and there was no proper mutual consent. So what the Marriage Amendment Bill 2023 is proposing to do is just to make the divorce process to be just, because currently the divorce process can be, that is where parties air their dirty linen. Yes, why do you want to divorce this person? Oh, person A did this, person B did this. There was adultery, this is the proof, he cheated on me, he had a mistress. There was domestic abuse and violence and all manner of things. So sometimes it really can be a process whereby, you see, parties can be emotionally drained, parties can be psychologically traumatized, especially where the parties have not healed. So you find that now it is an emotional battle. And this is a person you have lived with in the same house. This is a person who knows you. So the advantage that this marriage amendment bill is going to create is just to save all that, all that back and forth, all that tug of war in court. People can just decide, they sit down and decide, okay, this is not working. Let us mutually divorce, in a decent manner, and the process becomes, shorter. So this is what the marriage amendment bill is proposing to do, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
So do you mean in this proposal now, when it comes to court cases, couples do not have to tell the reasons for them divorcing?
The reason proposed for the mutual consent, that is the mutual divorce by consent, is number 1, the marriage has irretrievably broken down. That is, the parties can be able to tell if their own marriage has really broken down and they can't be able to save it. So number 2 is you jointly make the petition together. Currently, with the Marriage Act, any party can petition. Either the husband or the wife can petition for a divorce. But for this one, for divorce by mutual consent, both parties have to jointly petition the court together. Then during the hearing, the parties have to present themselves in court. That is now just to confirm that indeed this is what you have decided and it is a mutual divorce. Still, once they petition jointly, because even with the Marriage Act, at any point you can withdraw the petition. Sometimes maybe there were some emotions running high or something, or maybe the dispute that was there is something that the parties will have resolved. So at any point before the decree absolute, the parties can withdraw the petition. Yes.
And since you're a family lawyer, how long does it take for such divorce cases to be decided? And also, what are some of the the constraints, the cost of all that, like by the end of that decision by the courts? Approximately, how much do people spend on divorce, and for how long have they been dragging before now this amendment bill comes to place?
Okay. First, I would like to comment that previously, divorce matters used to take long in court. But I would like to commend the judiciary for the e-filing platform. So it has made filing even easier because now we have the e-filing platform. You can file online. Again, now we have virtual courts. So now matters are moving faster than before. So I would like to commend the judiciary on that. That was a great initiative, and it has really helped to reduce the backlog. And now cases are moving faster, like in Milimani. It could take like on an estimate, because again, you remember the dates you're given by court, they depend on the court diary. So it depends on the court diary at that particular moment. So, but right now matters are moving fast with virtual courts, like 6 months to at most 1 year, you're done with the process from the beginning to the end. Yes. So matters are now moving faster. Yes.
And maybe talk to me of how these divorce processes affect children involved.
Let's say that every time there are two superior parties fighting, the party that suffers most is the inferior one. Because one thing you should realize, sometimes what I've realized is sometimes the parents don't realize, you know, you get so caught up in fighting your spouse or your ex-husband or your ex-wife that you forget there's an innocent child here who is involved. This innocent child did not take part in whatever is going on between the two of you. So we find that when now the two parties are fighting, the child is torn apart because the child is wondering, okay, we had a family, there was mommy, there was daddy. Now I'm being told after you close school, go to daddy. After, you know, like back and forth, mid-time, go here, this one, come here, come here. You know, the child is not even understanding. And most of the times, the parents don't even prepare the children for what is happening. So the child becomes psychologically traumatized and emotionally hurt, because now they're wondering what is happening. What is this that daddy or mommy did that now we don't have to be together, especially if they are very, very young and they can't really be able to understand what is happening. When they are maybe teenagers and maybe they're able to interpret, so they start, you know, they start wondering, okay, now what is happening? You know, they really, really get destabilized, especially like when they have to change school, because maybe one party has shifted from this region to another or from this location to another, so they have to change school. And then maybe one of the spouse was doing well than the other. The children have gone with the spouse who's not so well off. So there's also a change in the standard of life that they were used to. Maybe they was living this high standard of life. Now all of a sudden they are back to a standard of life that they are not used to. So they really, truly, the children really get affected. And then maybe now there's also now the children case, who goes with who. There's custody issues. There's now maintenance and provision of the child's needs. That is the school fees, education, medical, food, shelter. So you find out there's a back and forth. And you know the worst thing, and I really, really feel sad about that, the worst thing is that there's some parents who use their children because now of this divorce. Oh, if you don't give me this divorce, I'll take the children. You will never see them again. Or they use the children to punish the other party, which is a really sad thing, because you see one thing, you are affecting this child. And I have seen several of those cases. The child is affected because now the child is wondering, what is happening? You know, I've been removed from this school to this school. I was living in this area to this area. And then things move so fast for the child to be able to process what is happening. So sadly, when a divorce happens, the children get affected. So that is why if there was a way that these parties can just divorce mutually and save all these battles, all these haggles, all this tug and war, all this back and forth, you know, all this abuse and everything, it would really also help the children to also have a smooth transition. And I would also encourage that at least parents take their children for counseling and also prepare them, you know, that this and this is happening, so that the children are also able to readjust to the situation that is happening.
And what does the law say about co-parenting? Are there like clear guidelines on what, which parent should be the children and what time or when should each see them? Or because we've been seeing this trend mostly nowadays. There's a lot of co-parenting going on.
Yes.
But again, there's those tussles of this one doesn't want the other one to see the child. So is there like any guideline on how and where the children should be after a divorce?
What happens is, as per the law provides that the responsibility of providing for the child is equal between the mother and the father, whether they are married or not. So first of all, the parental responsibility should be equal between the mother and the father, whether they are married or not. Then we come to the Children's Act. So we have the Children's Act. The Children's Act provides that all the children's matter, they should be decided as per the best, what is the best interest of the child? What is in the best welfare of this child? So when it comes now to parental responsibility, where the parties are able to mutually agree, they can mutually agree and come up with a parental responsibility agreement. Because when it comes now to the child, we have the legal custody and actual custody. Legal custody refers to who is taking responsibility over this child, who is meeting the needs of this child. Actual custody means who is living with this child at a particular time. So we find that parties can agree. Then we find now who is providing for the needs of this child, who will take up school fees, who will take up the shelter, who will take up the food, who will take up the medical cover, entertainment, clothing, and all that. So you find that where parties are able to agree, they can mutually agree and come up with a parental responsibility agreement. I've mediated several of those cases whereby parties have come before me, appeared before me as a mediator, and I've helped them resolve and come up with a parental responsibility agreement. Now, where parties are not able to agree, then now we file a matter in the children's court, whereby now sometimes the party A says, I'm able to stay with these children. And we are seeing things changing because nowadays we just don't have single mothers. We also have single fathers. We have fathers who are also fighting for custody of their children. We have cases whereby the mother is negligent to the children. So the father will petition to the court, no, it is in the best interest of this child that I be the one to have the actual custody of these children and take care of the children because of reason 1, 2, 3. So you petition the court through the children's court in a children's case. So now, you get to petition, like based on this and this evidence, I'm the person who is best suited to stay with the children. So whichever party that gets the actual custody, the other party should be able to have something we call access. So if you're the one staying with the child, maybe during school time, you stay with the child. When the child has closed for school holidays, I also get a time to spend with the child. Then you agree to split between the responsibilities, who takes who or who is able to provide for, because not the parties, maybe the mother and the father, they don't have the same financial capability. Yes.
Yeah, and divorce cases have been on the rise the last few years. In 2023 specifically, or 2022, how many are we speaking of in terms of numbers?
I may not have the specific numbers, but what I know is that the numbers are on the rise. And you see, the reason why the divorce and separation could be going on the rise is based on various factors. Because number one, it depends on the background. Number two, it depends these parties, when they were getting married, what did they discuss? What were they looking for, What was the foundation of this marriage? What were they looking for, What is it that was there at that point that maybe now has not filled? And then you find that now in the modern society, there's a lot of influence, there's a lot of exposure. So, and then also depends on the values of this particular persons. So you find that maybe the reason why it is on the rise, at the beginning when these two persons were entering into this marriage, what did they discuss? Did they check if they were compatible? Did they check if their goals are matching, if they are aligned in their visions? Did they do the background check? Was there a party who lied to the other, and then when they got into the marriage, they're like, what? So it's not like this, Was there a party who was pretending? Were there other issues of interference? Was there domestic abuse and violence? Because really you can't stay in a marriage and there's domestic abuse and violence, and the next thing we are seeing now, someone has been killed by a spouse or something. All these cases that are rising of these killings, that are happening. So they had all those things have contributed. So it depends with the foundation of this marriage, because basically, if the foundation was not strong, then when the storms come, then it's going to be shaky, and then now parties are going to split. Yeah, so it depends with so many factors. Yes.
Of course, I understand there are many reasons or causes for divorce in this era, but how bad is the rate of gender-based violence when it comes to divorces?
What I would say is that the gender-based violence has been on the rise because I deal with gender-based violence victims. And I can tell you one thing for sure, sexual and gender-based violence is real. That is what people don't realize. And you see, this abuse does not necessarily have to be physical. Abuse can be psychological,
Yes.
it can be physical, it can be sexual, it can be financial. So people don't understand. When somebody says, oh, I'm going through this and this, an outsider may not be able to understand.
Yes.
But one thing that is there is that it has really been on the rise. And what is happening, the abuse is not just happening on the women nowadays. It is happening even to the men.
Yes.
So we may advocate so much for the women that we forget even the men are suffering out here. So the abuse is real, and domestic abuse and violence has contributed as well to the rise in the divorce cases.
Thank you. And let's now take a short commercial break. We'll be back with more. But remember, our question of the day is, do you support the proposal to change the law to allow couples to divorce by mutual consent? At TV47 News on X, at TV47 Kenya on Facebook. The hashtag is Morning Cafe.
Ed at Ed Mbiti says, yes, if that's a decision they all want, why waste time, money, and emotional dismemberment when they can all solve it? Start. Nyakiana, then share kids and property. Ama namna gani? If you're going to divorce, don't get married. Simple. Wira Niwera says there's nothing worse than being stuck with quote-unquote wrong partner. Wacha watu waachane roho safi. Love to Be says, yeah, let them go ahead as long as they mutually agree. Again, here, Wakili will be telling us how mutually all this can be. There's a question here. How will real marriage differ from the come-we-stay marriage if that law amendment materializes? Kaleki again says, yes, if it can work, you just write a letter of resignation. And Tony Tone says, God hates divorce. That's what you're saying on X, or if you like, Twitter. Let me take a look at Facebook at TV47 Kenya. Ibrahim Lukorito, I can't. Watu watamea pembe, leo hawataki, kesho wanataka. So again, there's the whole being in the middle. Today you want, tomorrow you're not of the opinion. Oliver Muredhi, kabisa, some of us have been waiting for such legislation for decades. Aidan Jemo, yes. Roma Catholic, yes. And Dan Daniel gives a very, very big yeah. A final one here, Karanja Little Bimbo Mike. Marriage will have no meaning. Okili will be telling us if that is really true. Keep talking to us at TV47 Kenya, that is on Facebook, and TV47 News on X. Mine at Nyerungita _ at Limuki _F, and at Fred Indimuli. Back to you, Flora.
Well, thank you, Stanley, for that feedback. And of course, keep your feedback coming in as well as your questions. And the advocate here will be gracious enough to answer to us. And maybe to just start off with what people are asking there, how will marriage differ from come-we-stay marriage if at all this amendment bill passes?
What I would like to say is, first of all, this, the come-we-stay is just a term we have coined. As per the Marriage Act 2014, proof of marriage is a marriage certificate. Even for the traditional marriages, once you have gone through the traditional, stages of that marriage, you are required to register that marriage as a traditional marriage. So the proof of marriage is a marriage certificate. Yes.
Let me look at a question that someone has sent to me here via WhatsApp, and he asks based on the ratio between man and a woman, who loses more resources in the time of divorce, and also speak to us of the distribution of resources when a divorce happens between two people.
Okay, you can't really say, you see a marriage, you can't really say who has lost, who has won, because you see, first of all, this is not something, when people fall in love, it's not something you may be able to quantify. If a person has put in their time, their effort, their resources, their love, their emotions, that's not something that you can really be able to quantify.
Yes.
So when parties go separate ways, I would say each will have suffered their own loss in their own way, because you can't be able to quantify the exact loss, in terms of the emotional loss and the time they spent in that marriage or in that relationship. When it comes to the distribution of matrimonial property, first I would like by defining what matrimonial property is. Matrimonial property is property that has been acquired during the subsistence of that marriage. So it can be acquired during the subsistence of that marriage. There are spouses who prefer to register their properties jointly, and there are spouses who each register their properties separately, each in an individual name. So when it comes to the distribution of matrimonial property, you're supposed to file a separate course for the distribution of that, property. Because when it comes to divorce, we normally have three separate cases. Number one, we have the petition for the divorce. Then number two, we have now another case for division of the matrimonial property in the family court. Then now we have the children's case, in case you want now, there's a dispute on the custody and the maintenance of the child or children. So we normally have 3 in 1. So you can see how heavy it is. So when it comes to distribution of matrimonial property, parties have to prove contribution. And contribution means, did you contribute monetary contribution, like you gave, like if you are buying a parcel of land and the parcel of land was 1 million shillings, did you contribute part of that? Like party can say, I give 700,000 and a party contributed 300,000, and this is like the proof. Contribution can be monetary or non-monetary. Non-monetary means, yes, I did not contribute in monetary terms, but I am here, I'm taking care of your home, I'm raising the children,
contribution.
I'm doing the farm work. So that is non-monetary contribution. I'm here being a supportive wife. So the bone of contentment becomes, what is this how do you prove this non-monetary contribution, and what are you entitled to? Because as per the Constitution, parties have equal rights before marriage, during marriage, and after marriage. Then we have the Matrimonial Property Act. So once you are able to prove the contribution, then the judge has the discretion to say that, okay, in this case, we will give 50-50 distribution. In this case, it is 70-30, based on how you have proved the contribution. However, for parties that are registered in the joint names of the spouses, then it is automatically presumed that you own the property 50-50. Now the issue comes where, and that is in most cases, like you find like maybe the man buys the property, puts them in his name, or if the woman is the one who is well off, she just buys the properties and puts them on her name.
Yes.
So now at that point, you have to prove what is the contribution that you made to this particular property, so that now the decision can be made. Like now, based on this particular case, it's on a case-by-case basis. Based on this particular case, this party is entitled to this much percentage of the properties, or this party is entitled to this much percentage.